Justin, how are we doing, my man?
Doing good, man. Then, well, the Nuggets, I guess, kind of killed the vibe slightly last night with a tough
Yeah.
loss, but I'm still riding high from the Christmas Day win and the Aaron Gordon dunk, so I refuse to let the mood come down just because of a regular season loss to Sacramento.
Well, and then Chris Brown like ties it up with that insane dunk himself, and I was like, oh my god, we're just in this world where like all we get is sick dunks, and we just own the NBA universe. So yeah, that was a bummer. That actually put Mitch and I on the historic 0-6 mark on the show yesterday. So horrible vibes, Mitch. He gave out these NBA spreads, and I know it. It's how we've built the manifesto. We don't bet spreads. We try to stick to props, and it's that random Wednesday that got us. We've had so many couple weeks of stacking SGPWs and 2-1 days after 2-1 days. And yesterday, the double 0-3 was just devastating. That Oregon game, the book was so off. It seemed too easy. It was. It's the rare easy one that is easy. You hate that. The Nuggets screw us. What can you do, Justin? What can you
Peyton Manning had a 6 interception game once too, so it
do?
happens. It's part of playing the game.
Oh, man after my own heart. So I had to, bowl season's coming up. No one I trust more than the main man, J Mike, to give us the full breakdown of these big New Year's games that we've got coming up. Thursday night football, Josh Dobbs. What? The book knew before we knew. I was ready for a fade Malik Willis. Instead, we've got Josh Dobbs. Avs, who've been a sneaky one to bet on anyways. And this is that time of the year where I always like to pick your brain on college hoops. So hey, from a devastating loss comes great things, and most of them in the form of having to have you on the show. So we called in the cavalry today.
Well, I appreciate you, man. You're giving me too much love, but it's the holiday season, so
Oh,
we can all use it.
you
Let's
nailed it.
let's get into the big three though, because like you said, we've got a ton to go over. I mean,
Lots
as
to
far as a
go.
sports fan goes, this is kind of awesome because there's just a little bit of everything over these next couple of days. Starting with bowl season, we've got some daytime action, but I'm going with the Alamo Bowl tonight. We've got
Mm,
Washington taking on Texas. Texas is going to be without their top two running backs, Bijan Robinson and Rashawn Johnson, both opting out. It's all going to be on Quinn Ewers. He's flash, man. He's got a ton of arm talent, but I just think missing these skill guys, that's a tough draw going up against a pretty dynamic offense with Washington and Michael Penix Jr. I almost just gave out the spread, but I figured, hey, let's chase the victory. We think Washington's the better team. At least we did when we talked about it. The one, or at least the hotter team at this given time when we talked about it on the draft pod. I'm sticking with the Huskies in this one.
yeah.
Moving on to Thursday night football, we've got the Cowboys and the Titans. At the bottom, I do have a spread. I know it goes against what we believe in, but these massive spreads have not been hitting in the NFL this season. Whether you look at the Cowboys against the Texans a while back,
Yeah.
the Chiefs, the Bills have had a couple of these where they're like 14 to 17 point favorites. They don't really hit in the NFL. The parity is too good. And honestly, as much of a dumpster fire as the Titans can be, they're not fun to watch. They're still
Mm-hmm.
too well coached under Vrabel to get completely blown out at home, I think. So I do like them to cover 14. I
Mm.
like the Cowboys to win, and I like Michael Gallup to have a nice game. Over 33 and a half receiving yards. That's hit in 70% of his appearances this season. He's getting a lot of targets, and he's now played 60 plus snaps in back-to-back weeks. So he should be on the field. With them missing Pollard, I imagine they're going to air it out more than usual. Him
Yeah.
and CD Lamb are their top two targets. I think that should hit pretty easily.
Love that. This definitely feels like a game where Thursday night, if you're going after props, you kind of want to find that middle ground prop because yeah, it does feel like a spread the wealth day for the Cowboys offense. You're not necessarily going to run Zeke into the ground if it's a double digit blowout. And I mean, Cowboys minus 14 seemed really juicy to me this morning when I was thinking of Malik Willis But with the quarterback change, it's kind of like throw it out the window. You don't. It's like the Texans. Texans looked awful with Kyle Allen at quarterback. You would have set the line at like plus 21 and you still wouldn't have covered. As soon as they made that quarterback change to like Driscoll, and now it's kind of Driscoll and Mills together, that changed everything. We'll see Dobbs. At least he's, I
He
think
can
he's
complete a pass downfield,
Thank
which
you.
they
Yeah.
really couldn't do with Malik.
It's insane. Yeah, Malik was like going full blown Wildcat quarterback, and it clearly wasn't working. It is a good coaching staff. I mean, shit though, the injuries for them are just insane. Like the
Yeah, I
Titans are
mean, it's
devastated.
unfortunate they've
Yeah.
completely fallen apart these last 6 weeks. I think they were what, like 6 or 7-2 at one point, and now the
Yep.
wheels have just
Yep.
fallen off.
Yep.
But even when you look at the last like month, because I was going through it, they still most weeks lose by like 3 to 7 points. They're in every game because they bog it down. They'll dictate the tempo. They'll do whatever they can to keep the ball in Derrick Henry's hands as much as possible. And they'll just try and make it wonky. They'll muck it up as best as possible. I don't think it's going to be enough to win or even like look good in doing so.
Right.
I just don't think they're going to get embarrassed or blown out, by like 15 plus points at home.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough. It's also a shorter week and they're home dogs, so that should definitely factor into all this. It's just a tough one. I was looking at the Titans team total. That's set at 12.5. At least it was before the quarterback change was official. And it's just like, even with Malik Willis starting at quarterback the last couple games, scored 14 back-to-back games and scored 17. Like, nothing feels super safe. So I like you kind of going against the grain. I also think the book or the Titans with this change at quarterback are kind of screwing the book. Like, a ton of action was coming in on the Cowboys. This line kept going up, up, up. It went from 13.5 to 14 this morning alone. This quarterback change, I think, does change a lot of things because, as you were saying, like, Malik Willis can't even complete a pass. At least Joshua Dobbs can do that. So let's go to my big three. I am sticking to the manifesto here. We are getting things done right now. Mikko Rantanen playing an ungodly amount of minutes for the Avs. He is their offense. 20 minutes are just the norm. The last several games, the over 3.5 shots on goal stats hub on the DraftKings Sportsbook app had the over hitting 64% of the time right now. The last several games, you're getting this at minus 135 because the last game you only had 3, but the last several you had 13, 8, 10, then another 2-shot night, then 8. So when he clears this easy, and it's no problem. Cale Makar has hit the over on his prop. 8 of the last 9 games, he is playing even more minutes. He has more games of over 30 minutes than he has games where he's played under 20. So just insane. And then I was torn by a bunch of these bets. I like Justin's Washington bet. I also think Florida State is intriguing. I kind of told you guys all the stuff I was thinking through that Thursday night game, though. The quarterback change just made gun shy. And in the association, sticking to props, Thunder taking on the Hornets. And for the Hornets, Mason Plumlee has not hit the over 24.5 points, assists, rebound combined in his last 5 games. That's just set too high right now. And so we are taking the under PAR on Plum Dog Millionaire to hit easy peasy. And yeah, there you go. Anything is probable. Did consider an Avs under. Georgiev, of course, is insane in goal. Kings, though, backup goalie, could this be the one where maybe Avs find a little power play luck and break it open? Didn't feel great about it. JT Comp for over 1.5 shots on goal. That you can hammer away, but the odds are minus 200. I didn't want to give something in that odd range, but it's a nice little parlay sweetener that you've got out there as comp for over shots on goal. You can just add that to whatever J Mike gives you on the college hoop side in just a second.
I like it, man. The Miko one especially. I'm shocked that you can get that value. It feels like kind of a overcorrection off one performance based on, I mean, most nights he's going to hit that in the first period, early second period. So I feel
it's
pretty good about
crazy.
it.
I think they must have adjusted from 2.5 to 3.5 to start the season. For a while, the under was the hotter part. Then he gets injured. Then he comes back. 3.5 starts to hit, but it's still at plus value. The last week or so, he's dominated so much. It's gone heavy in the minus to where the last couple games it was even in the like minus 150s. And then, yeah, one game where you just miss it by a half shot, boom, back to Value City. You love to see it. And speaking of Value City, of course, DraftKings Sportsbook, the presenting sponsor, the everything of this show. They are the kings, truly. And right now, getting ready for bowl season, new users can bet $5 on a pre-game college football money line and win $150 in free bets. If your bet hits, it's an outstanding deal for new users when you use that code DNVR. Right now, existing users that's like loading up. There's that time of year where J Mike and I are texting back and forth about sick bets, sick boosts. You can boost an SGP 100% on the NFL right now. They've got a daily boost up to 100% on NBA SGPs. They've got earn up to 100% on the more parlay legs you add, the more you can boost a college basketball boost. It's just that great time of year. They've got a parlay contest for the bowl season. It's just like anything you want. It's the best. I honestly, when I don't get bets on DraftKings Sportsbook, it messes me up. Like I'd love to see some Broncos next head coach odds. It quantifies things that you can't otherwise quantify, and I love them for that. Check them out. Use that code DMVR. And yeah, can I get that disclaimer, Tiff? Shout out to Tiff on the back end. It might be on eCam, so we don't care. It must be 21 or older, Colorado only, one per new customer. Restrictions apply. See terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700 and see show notes for details. All right, Justin, we've got a lot to get into. These Bulls have been messing me up, man. Even though I think we've done okay with our draft pod picks, it's just real treacherous. They're too unpredictable, but I've got you. You are the man. You are my college football, college sports betting Sherpa. So we're gonna load up our donkeys with our gear and dilemma of the day me up, Tiff, if you would, because we are getting into how we're betting this bowl season. And then I don't know. I don't think Avs or Thursday night football SGPs are in play tonight, but I'll defer to you. We can talk that out. But Justin, we've got Minnesota Syracuse going on right now. Q's plus 10.5 live dogs might be intriguing. I mentioned Oklahoma at Florida State. I think the Knolls seem too good to be true. We've kind of touched on that. And you've got Washington going into Texas. Let's get into the weekend. Do you have any hot Mountain West bets we need to get into before we go to the headliners?
I mean, we've got Ohio playing Wyoming in the Barstool Arizona Bowl. Wyoming has 0 running backs left on the roster. Their
That's
2
bad.
leading receivers also left.
It's not great.
Ohio was 8-4 against the spread this year. They made the MAC championship. They lost a tough one there. I mean, they should be in a better bowl than they are. I like Ohio to cover the -2.5, and that's a tough one for me because on principle, I back Craig Bowl in bowl games. He always has his team well prepared for these types of scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me feel a little bit wonky that or just that they're going to pull out something wonky. It makes me feel a little bit nervous that they're going to do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I still just think Ohio, the offense is too explosive given Wyoming's lack of talent the other way. I don't see how they keep up. So I'm going with Ohio to cover, with all respect due to Craig Bowl and a tough Wyoming team that'll, kind of make it weird for anyone.
Fair enough. Those losses do seem pretty huge to a Wyoming team. That's not like this is like a dynamic offense. Like you lose those kind of key starters, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. Like I imagine it's gonna be like maybe Parker Christensen, who's kind of like their hybrid tight end / fullback, and you get
Mm,
really weird. I mean, I don't. They can do all kinds of weird stuff, but I
yeah.
don't know if it's gonna be enough to keep up with an Ohio team that's again pretty good. So
The
it feels
weirdness
like a
does
weird
scare
spot.
you. Yeah, the weirdness does scare you, but that's I mean if you want to get weird on Friday at 2:30 p.m., that might be a nice play. I, take me through the rest, man. Cuz I like if you say don't mess with it, I don't want to like go on some long soliloquy just to lead to stay away.
Okay. I like the over in Kansas State, Alabama over point total set at 56. Both of these
Yeah.
offenses very explosive. Both have talent defensively, but I just neither have been like lockdown. They've kind of both been in shootouts when they've played quality teams. I definitely like the over there. Before that, I guess I kind of like Maryland on Friday as well as a 1 point underdogs against North
Mhm.
Carolina State.
Yeah.
The money line's only at minus 105, so I guess you might as well just do the +1 and take the minus 110 and have a little bit of room there. No Devin Leary for NC State.
Right.
It just feels like a tough spot for them against a frisky Terps team. Um, Iowa, Kentucky is the weird one because I'm tempted to take the under, even though it's only set at 31.
Set at 31. Justin, I don't think Army Navy when you gave it out was at 31.
No, it was like 35 and a half.
Yeah.
But
Like this is
no Will Levis
insane.
for Kentucky. Iowa can't score.
No,
Both
they
of
can't.
these
They can't.
defenses are pretty good. But
Wow.
I don't know. It just makes you so nervous that you get into the Army Navy territory where you're good, you're good, you're good. It goes to overtime and then 2 plays bust you. So it's probably a stay away, but it is going to be an interesting game to watch. Um, the one I wanted to ask you
Wow.
about is where are you at with this Michigan TCU spread? Because +7.5, I don't know. It's right on the borderline. I think TCU is going to punch up a little bit, but what Michigan can do in the trenches, I have a hard time seeing like anything other than them suffocating them and kind of going to your boa constrictor analogy where by the fourth quarter they just kind of wear you down.
Yeah, I am the more I think about it, all in on Michigan. I just think TCU is kind of like stuttering a bit to the finish, like the the pixie dust was starting to run out already. And I just think Michigan's going to kind of asphyxiate them in the trenches and that we get to double digits by the end of this game. Now, doubting Max at quarterback's going to be tough, but with that hook, the more I think about it, the more I think the hook is just like small incentive to stay away from Michigan. Like I really think they take care of business pretty easily.
Dogs have not performed well in the college football playoff historically, particularly in this open round. It's kind of been a bloodbath. So I think the smart play is back Michigan. They're better in the trenches. They're
Yeah.
better defensively.
Mm-hmm.
TCU has some playmakers, and they're a lot of fun. It's been a great story. I'm glad they made it and everything. Like, I'm not one of those guys that's like, this is why we needed somebody else because they won't be able to hang with Michigan. They earned their spot, but this Michigan team is absurd. And I just feel like we're on a collision course for Michigan, Georgia in the national championship. I do like Ohio State's chances of pulling an upset a hell of a lot more than I like TCU's, even though I think Georgia is by far the better team.
100%. That's a tricky one, but if they get it right, that's like they get the game plan right and they jump ahead a little early and you force Stenson Bennett to play from behind, that could change things drastically.
You need the guys in the trenches then too, on Ohio
Yes.
State who've kind of been like hit or miss. Like they game break against Penn State
Right.
and then they got ran over by Michigan. So which group's going to show up?
Right. But they do have those dudes on
Yeah,
the
but they're
D
there.
line.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%. And Ohio State, or Georgia rather, on the O-line, probably a bit more talented than Michigan, but not as experienced or veteran, which does make a difference.
And Michigan totally leans into what I mean, not that Georgia doesn't as well, but I think
But yes,
Georgia still to an extent is like, all right, let's let Stenson throw it a little bit, whereas Michigan is kind of just like, no, we just want to punch you in the teeth repeatedly.
yeah. No, I mean, I am slowly leaning Michigan -7.5. Georgia, Ohio State's a tricky one. It almost feels like sprinkle that Buckeyes money line just for funsies, and that
If you
maybe
believe in them, I think that's the bet because the
yeah.
spread, there's no
Oh,
value there,
no, no.
and you're just going to be sweating the entire time. So I wouldn't go heavy on them by any means, but I could see it. Like I could see a path where they win a weird game. Whereas if TCU beats Michigan, it'll be kind of shocking.
Yes, agreed. The over is kind of intriguing there though. 62.5.
Yeah, I could see a
Pretty
shootout for sure.
pretty intriguing. And then I mean we could already bet Georgia Michigan odds. That would have Georgia as a 7.5 point favorite. So Georgia would be a bigger favorite than they are against Ohio State.
I don't get that. Where's the Michigan love? I don't. I've been in on Michigan all year. I so desperately want to believe that they can win the national championship that right now I think I have the blinders on. So
I think what you're really betting on, what the book is telling you is McCarthy, their trust in McCarthy as just a guy who can operate from the pocket against the defense that's gonna like hunt his ass is less than their trust basically in CJ Stroud with that receiving core to do the same. What's crazy is a Michigan Ohio State natty has Ohio State favored by 3. Is there
yeah.
something regional I'm missing? I mean, I
I
guess
think
that
it's
would be a
just
tough
trying to
team to
beat a
beat
rival
twice.
twice as hard in
Yeah,
college football, you know. And at
yeah.
that point, you're kind of playing with house money if you're Ohio State. But
Yeah, and I mean, the first 2 quarters of that Ohio State Michigan game, it kind of felt like, man, Buckeyes are letting them hang around, but like it's just a matter of time. Like it didn't seem like Michigan could really keep pace. Like sooner or later, these broken coverages from the Buckeyes would like stop, and they would kind of figure it out. I think there's a clear tippy top tier team in the country, and it's Georgia. And their biggest concern is how elite is their quarterback in a like come from behind type situation, and how much have they been tested? Like they've kind of coasted all
it's
season.
just been cruise
Yeah,
control all year for them. They really the level of
right.
competition. It's not their fault. Again, I'm not like being like they should have played a harder schedule. They took care of business when they played ranked
Yeah, it
teams, but
worked out that way. Right.
I don't know.
And
Sometimes it does kind of happen in those playoff scenarios where you see the team cruise all year long and then all of a sudden they get
right,
punched in the mouth and it's like, oh, wait, we're down by 10 in the fourth quarter. And they just haven't been there.
right. And Michigan to me is in that second tier, kind of on their own as well. And that third tier is kind of a big old jumble of Ohio State, TCU, Bama, these kind of teams. Like if healthy or like you catch them on the right day, there's a like 5, 6 teams in that cluster probably.
If Georgia gets up, though, I just don't think there's a team in the country that can
No,
come
no,
back
no.
on them.
Mm-mm.
That defense is too good when they can pin
Great
their
point.
ears back. And they don't make mistakes offensively. Like they will let Stetson stretch the field, but it's all very controlled
Oh,
shots. You
yeah,
know, it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
like
yeah.
spreading it out and then, having him pick
Right,
between multiple guys downfield. It's play action and the one guy's
right.
15 yards wide open. He hits it every time to his credit, but it's just
Well,
controlled.
and they play bully ball on offense. I mean, they look as much like Michigan on offense as any team in the country because once you are from behind, playing them from behind, and they have all the options of are we going to run it? Are we going to try to take it to the perimeter with our athletes? Stenson going to hit you on a boot? Are we doing something with our tight ends? Then you just have no chance because they can do like their menu of what they can do offensively is infinite.
The one thing I think Michigan maybe has an advantage over at least Georgia is just the home run ability. Whereas like Georgia, they're very just down the field. They do what they do.
Yeah.
It's not a ton. I mean, they can, I think. Maybe they just have saved some of it, but I mean, I don't know. I have a hard time seeing like McCarthy go crazy the way he did against Ohio State. But it
Mm,
only does take one, or one run
mhm.
from Donovan Edwards where he breaks
Right.
it, and all of a sudden the game completely changes, and that's what happened against Ohio State.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. The futures for the Natty. Georgia minus 125. Honestly, those are pretty good odds.
For how good they are to not have that be at
Yeah.
like minus 250, minus 300
Yeah.
at least,
Mm-hmm.
that's the smart bet. I think Michigan
Right.
is worth sprinkling because I don't know. I do think they're talented enough that on the right day they could do it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we're overthinking it, and it's probably Georgia minus 25. You should just hammer it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm feeling as well. That's the play. I wonder if you could parlay that with Bryce Young to be the first overall pick. I don't think you can. I've got a
I
full
don't
bet
think
slip
so,
right
but
now.
that would be really fun if you could.
Yeah, that'd be really fun. Though of course CJ Stroud on either end of those could really screw you up. SGP wise, I think we just got to stay away from Avs for sure. And Thursday Night Football, I just don't know what to expect from Joshua Dobbs, which is where maybe the SGP is more of a to cover, Titans to cover, under, muck it up type game. But again, I don't, you go some field goals. I don't feel good about it. Too many unknowns here. So
There's a couple of props that I have. Dak Prescott over 229.5 passing yards at minus 115. That might be slightly different in the SGP. That's hitting 7 of 9 starts. It's not a good Titans secondary. With them not having Pollard, I think they're going to at least throw it 30 times. So I like that. The over 28.5 attempts at minus 120. He's thrown for at least 30 attempts in each of the last 5 games. But again, you feel weird in this game against the Titans. Like everything gets murky against them. So I just don't love any of them. Michael Gallup touchdown score at plus 210. I like the most out of all of the Cowboys options
mhm,
because Zeke's like
yeah,
no juice there with especially with Pollard like minus 200. CD Lamb was like plus 105. Again, Gallup's playing more than ever. He gets a lot of targets. They do target him in the red zone specifically. Should have had a touchdown last week. I like it at plus 210 if you're trying to chase some value there.
yep, love that. He's Justin Michael. Cover all his great stuff at DNVR or check out all his great stuff at DNVR Rams. Got us covered on college hoops, college football, everything Rams. Justin, college hoop strategies?
Just try and find the best situations, whether that's like live betting really good teams that have slow starts, like UNLV was down big to San Jose State on the road. I got them at plus 9, I think, at halftime. They ended up losing still, but that covered easily. I'd love a good under, especially against a good defensive home team. Tonight we've got St. Mary's hosting San Diego. Over under is set at 134. I really love the under there. St. Mary's is just so experienced.
Mm-mm-mm.
Teams score like in the 40s against them pretty regularly at home. They are a decent offensive team, so you kind of worry about them like scoring close to 90 and screwing you there, but it still could cover with how good they are defensively. So that's my big strategies this year have been live betting favorites that go down after a slow start. College basketball is a game of runs,
Yeah.
and always try and find the unders because again, it's just wonky. Like every now and then you're gonna get screwed where you just have two teams that are hot, they're going shot for shot. You don't get a ton of that in college basketball. It's usually one side that gets hot for a couple minutes and the other side, and then it kind of evens out in the long run. And I think early on, Vegas kind of has a hard time with some of these point totals because, in non-conference, you get like weird disparity in the talent that you're playing. You might be playing like a top 25 team one night, and then you're playing a basically borderline Division 2 team
Mhm.
the next night, and the sample sizes just get weird. Over the next couple of weeks, you kind of really learn like who these teams are. what they're going to be as we get into the conference season. But try and find the value again, and don't be afraid to take an under. They're going to hit way more times than they miss.
There you go. It's I mean, life rules to live by right there. Justin, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Best of luck on all your bets. We are out.